Hi there, welcome to the YouTube channel. Thanks for coming and checking out today's Commander deck tech. I'm still looking at the Commander Masters cards, and today is one I haven't covered before, and it is obviously that you're here for Mizzix of the Izmagnus. 2 blue and red for a 2/2 Goblin Wizard. Has 2 abilities. First one, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. And instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each experience counter you have. So basically, we're looking at a blue-red spells matters deck that get cheaper as we cast more and more instants and sorceries. Which, you know, I'm sure Mizzix, when it first came out back in the day, which was the Commander 2015, if I remember correctly, product line, it did take over for a while. It's not played as much now. I don't see it that often when I'm streaming. But it does turn up occasionally, and it is one of the cards that I haven't covered. So I figured Commander Masters reprinting, pretty good chance of having a go at it and getting it done today. So let's have a look at the deck. Starts, I always do, with the lands. Blue and red all the way through. Couple of ones I'll point out. Besiege You, useful in this deck because it makes our instants and sorceries uncounterable. Keep gives us some blockers if we need them. Mines of Moria give us some treasure tokens when we need them. We've got stuff in our graveyard we don't mind exiling. Obviously, we've also got Reliquary Tower and Temple of the False God in here, just to make sure that we've got the mana and we don't have to discard anything. Now, for a change, it's a blue-red deck that I'm not playing Cyclonic Rift in. Now, you can play Cyclonic Rift in here if you want to, but I've avoided it for reasons I'm hoping will become obvious shortly. But let's just look at the wonderfulness of the ramp I've got. So we've got Mox Tantalite, Soul Talisman, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Fire Diamond, Sky Diamond, Thought Vessel, and then I've got the Red Ruby Medallion and the Sapphire Medallion to make our red and blue spells cost even less, which means our instants and sorceries with these in play cost even less than they should do. And if we've got Mizzix in play as well, we're soon dropping the cost of everything we're playing to a certain degree. One thing I will say about these two is they also drop the cost of any permanents, so just not spells and sorceries and instants that we may be casting. They drop the cost of all of our spells, so bear that in mind. Whereas Mizzix is purely instants and sorceries. So let's go through the deck fairly rapidly because a lot of these cards will know. Wheel of Fate gives us a way of drawing more cards. We have to discard our hand, but we're suspending it for 4, so you should have 4 turns to empty your hand before this goes off. Mystical Tutor is here to go and get one of our, probably on the whole, one of our mass removal spells in the form of Chain Reaction or Blasphemous Act. We do need to control the board somehow, and it's easier doing it that way. Ponder, Serum Visions, you can play whichever ones you want, Brainstorm or etc. I just like these two for the look at the top 3 and the scry effect, so yeah, that's my choice. Winds of Change is just another way of cycling through our hand if we need to. And Magmatic Insight is probably a late game card draw when we've got enough lands in play that if we draw extra lands we need to get rid of them and turn them into something useful. Hopefully the Insight will do this. Anticipate will let us manipulate the top of our library. Arcane Denial, Counterspell and Mana Drain give us a little bit more board control. And then we have Snapcaster Mage to back them all up. We're only running 16 creatures in this deck. I was just checking, and this is one of them, so you know, it gives us a way of flashing back an instant or sorcery that we might need. We've got a fair bit of red ramp spells. We've got Battle Hymn, we've got Desperate Ritual, we've got Pyretic Ritual, and somewhere Seething Songs here. There you go. I've got them in because we do want to be hitting some mana at some stages and getting things going. I think it's Mana Geyser as well. There's another one up here. There you go. A lot of the deck is red. There's not, although there's looks like there's a lot of blue in here, there's not that much blue compared to red, so I went with the mana ramp for red as much as possible. Plus it has its upsides. Anyway, we'll come to that. Dragon Fodder gives us a couple of blockers. Electrostatic Field deals 1 damage to each opponent every time we cast an instant or sorcery, plus it's a 0/4 wall, which is hard to get through. Magma Jet, just for some direct damage to anything, and then a little bit of scrying. Thermo Alchemist, make sure you start casting your instants and sorceries when this hasn't got Summoning Sickness. You tap it, do the damage to each opponent, cast an instant, untap it, do it again, keep repeating that little chain as much as possible. We've got Thrill of the Possibility and Tormenting Voice. So we've got the instant draw card, discard 1, draw 2, and the sorcery discard 1, draw 2. Young Pyromancer and Third Path Iconoclast give us tokens that we can attack with and block with, which is why Battle Hymn's here, because then we do get a fair amount of mana once we've got one of these in play. Purely because we like having the creature spells. Just one thing to notice, Young Pyromancer only triggers on instants and sorceries. Third Path Iconoclast triggers on any non-creature spell. So this will trigger more than the others will do, including when we cast our artifacts. Over in the 3-drop, Windfall, just to get some more card draw if we need to. Filter Out is what I'm playing in this deck. So it returns all non-creature, all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. A little bit different to Cyclonic Rift, I realise that, but I wanted to try it out. And this is, 3 mana, probably 2 blue at some stage with the amount of reductions we've got in the deck. To get that down to 2, and it might be a little bit different, a little bit of a change. People don't expect this, they expect Cyclonic Rift, so bear that in mind. Yeah, sorry, missed one. Goblin Electromancer's in here as well, forgot to mention that, just realised. Gutter Snipe, might as well get shocking our opponents every time we cast an instant and sorcery. Jessica's Will to get some more mana or card draw, or well, exiling the top 3 and then playing them if we can. Play this only when you've got Mizzix out though, because you want to do both abilities. Fiery Temper is here just for a bit more damage, a little bit of discard. We have got Wheel of Fate in the deck, we have got Windfall in the deck, so that gives us something we can do with some damage if we need to when we discard it. Hordling Outburst just gives us a whole load of tokens. Baral and Carry Zev are here for their ability to fiddle around with the first instance or sorcery spell each turn. And hopefully we get the first make Ragavan a legendary 2/1 monkey creature token, which has got haste, so that's quite useful. Bloodwater Entity enters the battlefield. We get to put a target instant or sorcery from our graveyard on top of our library. So there's a little bit of manipulation of our graveyard. And then it's got Prowess. And it flies. So, yeah, we'll probably get there with that. Flame of Anor also turns up. We've got a wizard or 2. So hopefully we can choose 2 of them, which 9 times out of 10 will be draw 2 cards, deal 5 damage to a creature. Occasionally it will be draw 2, get destroy target artifact, but I'm guessing it's going to be the draw and the damage most of the time with the wizard in play. Prismari Command makes an appearance as well. 2 damage to any target and then probably a treasure token. Archmage Emeritus is also in the deck. This has actually gone down really a lot of value at the moment. And it does give you a card. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So, keep your hand full. Empty the Warrens gives us a whole heap of tokens, especially if we can get its cost down and we've played a few spells before it. Be surprised how many goblins you can get off the storming effect of this. And since I am playing Mizzix, I had to play Mizzix Mastery as well, just so we can do the whole overloading bit if we need to at some stage in the later game. Chain Reaction I've mentioned. Draconic Intervention deals X damage to each non-dragon creature where X is the exiled card's mana value. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Exile Draconic Intervention. Another great way of wiping the board out. Especially if you can exile something that costs a fair amount of mana once we do it. So bear that in mind. Maniform Hellkite gives us some tokens to attack with every time we cast a non-creature spell. Mana Geyser I've mentioned already. Reforge the Soul is another cheaper way of doing the whole Wheel of Fortune side of things. The miracle cost is okay. The normal casting cost a little bit high, but hey, you can get there. If you get an empty hand, you draw this, you're happy again, aren't you? Gandalf the Grey does a lot of interesting stuff when we do the whole instant and sorcery things. Lightning bolt to each opponent, copy an instant or sorcery, tap or untap a permanent, and eventually puts itself on top of the library again. So, never quite goes away if we can keep him protected slightly. Kranos, God of Storms, does a whole load of weirdness. Obviously, it's an indestructible god, and you can reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. If you get a land this way, draw a card. If it's a non-land, you get to lightning bolt something. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. Prophetic Bolt, 4 damage to anything, and then look at the top 4 cards of our library, put one of them in the hand, the rest in the bottom of our library in any order. Nice little instant. Najal the Storm Runner means we can cast our sorcery spells as though they had flash, so it turns them all into instants basically. And whenever he attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it. Have you seen what happens when you copy sort of like Prophetic Bolt? It's quite good fun. Anyway, Melik Izzet Paragon is also here, just so we can muck around and cast instants and sorceries on top of our library. And if we cast it from our top of our library, we get to copy it as well, which is even more fun. But Arcane Bombardment does the whole randomness that we like in a little bit of red decks. First time we cast an instant or sorcery, we get to exile one at random from our graveyard and copy it. It goes into exile under the Arcane Bombardment, and every time we cast an instant or sorcery the first time each turn, we get to have those copies come through. So, yeah. Whereas Thousand Year Storm just means we can copy it. Copy everything we've played after we played the first one. So you play, say, Mystical Tutor. Then you play Ponder. So you get 2 copies of Ponder. And then maybe if you've got enough mana, you drop, Magna Opus. And you get 3 copies of Magnus Opus. It's really quite good fun. Bear it in mind. To make sure we're getting creatures, Avika Enigma Goliath is also here. The ward ability tends to keep us in play, keeps us in play a lot longer than it should do until someone hits a Wrath effect. And then Magna Opus. If we're desperate, yes, we can discard it for treasure. I wouldn't recommend it. I would wait until we get up to 8 mana, or enough mana we can cast it with our reductions we've got going on potentially. And get the 4 damage, the 2 tapping 2 permanents, the 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token, and draw a couple of cards. It's not going to be that hard to get this going, I would think. And then obviously Blasphemous Act I've already mentioned. But that's it. That is my little fast take on Mizzix of the Izmagnus today. Thank you ever so much for watching the video. The stream will be back on Sunday this week, the 13th of August. As I'm recording this, I'm still on holiday, but you're seeing this on the Thursday that I'm actually coming home from holiday. So I'll be back streaming Sunday afternoon. I'll play some of the Commander Masters decks I've talked about over the last couple of weeks. If you want to see what I get up to on my stream, go back a couple of days, Saturday and Sunday of this week. Just gone. I put stream replays up of the last 2 streams I did before I went on holiday, so hopefully you've watched them and you can see what you get up to. So come and join in the fun. There's a link down below to Twitch, and I'm really hoping you've hit the subscribe button here on YouTube now. So help me out, get me a little bit higher on my subscriber count. I'd really appreciate it. But for now, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you on stream this weekend. Take care. Bye.